Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. Today we are going to be doing a January reading wrap up, and in my last video I decluttered my whole office, so we're gonna sit in front of my cute bookshelves, like my little library, to make this on brand for the book video. It's not exactly styled as I would like it. To me, still looks slightly cluttered, but it's better than it was. I'm doing my very best this year to try to be my best, but also to accept where I'm at and not be so hard on myself. Okay, we're working on our mental health this year. Anyway, that was a long-winded intro, but we have 5 books that we read in the month of January. Technically speaking, I only read 4, and one of them is from the very end of December, but I just wanted to include it in this video. If you watched any of my previous videos, I did talk about my reading goal this year being to read 70 books, and then I sat down with my life coach, and we talked about this because I was feeling very overwhelmed with things going on in my life, and I had told her last year I only read 21, and the year before that I only read 34, so she said, why 70 then? So I restructured the goal, and now we're gonna shoot for 40 because I can always go above it, but I'm not gonna disappoint myself. 40 is our goal, which is about, I can't remember the math, but I think it was like 3 a month, maybe 3 or 4 a month. We are off to a good start with January. Let's just dive right in. Starting off with the book we read at the very end of December. It is You Are a Badass at Making Money by Jen Sincero. So my very first self-help book I ever read was You Are a Badass, the yellow Jen Sincero book. Loved it so much. It was such a good intro into the self-help world and started me off becoming self-help obsessed. I do love self-help. Then I wanted to read this one. It's been on my shelves for a long time, and it was just time to read it. With the new year coming up, I was like, I'm gonna be my best self this year. I'm gonna improve my view of money, my relationship with it. Another thing is I feel very resistant to financial literacy books. Like the term financial literacy, I'm bored immediately. I also hate the term budgeting. The word budget is trigger to me. Me and my husband have an agreement that we just call it money planning. I just needed a different name. Anyway, besides the point. That is why I was kind of more so drawn to this book, because it's about mastering the mindset of wealth. So we're not necessarily talking about like the logistics of how to budget or plan things out or things like that. She touches on it a little bit, of course, because you kind of have to. But it's more so about your energy around money, the way you think about it. If you can't open your mind to the possibility of yourself being able to make money or being able to make money in ways that you previously thought you couldn't, you're never going to do it. It's like that quote. I wrote it on my wall. Whether you think you can or you think you can't, you're probably right. So it's all about mindset. Loved it so much. 5 out of 5 stars. Let me see if I have any other notes. Treat money like a high vibe force that flows where it's appreciated and respected. Okay, so if like you have beliefs that money is dirty or, you know, people with money are evil, you need to check those because those are blocking you. It can kind of feel a little woo-woo, but I think even scientifically backed. I don't know what to call it, you guys, but like even like the placebo effect or different proven ways our brain works, like the things you focus on, you create more of. So if you have such negative beliefs around money, that is going to affect your reality, your actual life. Everything in life to me seems just so deeply intertwined. Your views about yourself, the world, money. I think if you improve one area of your life, the other areas of your life tend to improve at least a little bit. Highly, highly, highly recommend, especially if you're a girl like me who's a bit intimidated by the realm of the financial world. Great place to start. Moving on to the very first book I finished in 2025, and that is I'm Glad My Mom Died by Jeanette McCurdy. I actually listened to this one on audiobook. One of my goals this year, if you've been keeping up with my YouTube channel, you know, is to become a clean girl. So I'm getting really into like cleaning, decluttering, that kind of thing. And I listened to this book on my first episode of my cleaning series. I was like cleaning my kitchen. It fueled me through cleaning. I cleaned for like 5 hours straight. It was crazy. But I also finished this book within like a 2-day period. So it's a memoir by Jeanette McCurdy. Jeanette McCurdy was on Nickelodeon's iCarly. I did watch that when I was younger. And the whole story is about her childhood, specifically with her abusive mother and getting into acting and kind of her whole journey up until now. Obviously, her mom was abusive. That's not really a spoiler because the title's called I'm Glad My Mom Died. It was an absolutely incredible book. I was also drawn to it. I'd seen it a couple of times, and then I saw it at Barnes & Noble, like very end of December, beginning of January, and just kind of was like, I kind of want to read that now. It's calling to me. I don't know if you guys have that with books, but sometimes like I'll buy one or I'll be aware of one and then randomly it just calls to me. My dog has to go to the bathroom. Another reason this book was calling to me is because Jeanette McCurdy was raised Mormon or in the LDS church, which I didn't know when I was younger. Kind of crazy. And I was also raised in the LDS Mormon religion, so I was very curious to see her perspective and her childhood with that. It's so funny because I feel like I've been mentioning this in like all my videos recently, and it's not even on purpose. It just, you know, because I'm talking about this book or something comes up. It's so funny. One thing I want to say too about the book that I really liked, and I don't know if this is a spoiler, so if you're like really concerned about spoilers for a memoir, maybe skip ahead. I'll put a time on the screen when you can skip to. But one of my favorite things was that throughout the book, she tells the story from the perspective, it seems like, of the age she was at. So as the thickness of the abuse is happening in her younger years, she didn't know it was abuse then, and the way she's telling the story, you can totally see the way like a child would be presenting the information, not realizing that it's an unsafe environment or, you know, the abuse is going on, which I thought was just done really well. It was a very powerful book. Of course, I did shed some tears. I would for sure look up, you know, trigger warnings on the book if you're a little bit nervous, because there are some like heavy themes throughout, but written so well. It was so amazing. I typically don't rate memoirs. I've heard from other people and I kind of agree that it's, you know, it's like you're rating someone's life and it feels, I don't know. So to this point, I usually don't rate memoirs. I did put 5 stars on Goodreads because when I just like went to write in Goodreads that I'd finished the book, seeing other people rate it low kind of made me mad. And I wanted to balance it out with a higher rating, so I did put that in there. But overall, highly recommend. Highly recommend. It was very good, and the audiobook was narrated by Jeanette herself. The next book I read was another self-help, Untamed by Glennon Doyle. I actually found this one in a thrift store, which is always, you know, like jackpot when you see a book at Target or you see like it's very highly advertised, very popular. And then I find it at the thrift store. Amazing. So I actually bought this one forever ago, and then again, jumped out at me, it was the next one to read. I love when that happens because I'll start the book and then a lot of times it's perfectly aligned with what I needed to hear, what I'm going through, and I'm like, wow, something's going on. Divinely connected. But this one, Untamed, as the title says, is very much targeted for women, I feel. I think anybody could read it, but it feels very targeted for women for me. And it's all about being true and authentic to yourself and not living to please others or living to be the good girl. Glennon grew up Christian. She was married at one point to a man, traditional like Christian things, had kids with him. She meets another woman that she's attracted to and like falls in love with her. It's a whole story, but obviously there's little stories throughout the whole story, but that's her life story. So it's not a memoir. It's definitely a self-help book, but she uses her personal life to write things off of, right? Future editing Ellie here. I lied to you guys. This is in fact categorized as a memoir. News to me. I did read the synopsis again and it does say it's a memoir, but it doesn't feel like one. It definitely felt more self-help to me. This book was highly motivating. I love anything about being more authentic and not living up to some expectation you had from childhood or from other people. Love this one very much. I would also give this, what did I give in Goodreads? Okay, in Goodreads I said I probably would have given it a 4.5, but I rounded up, of course, on Goodreads to 5 stars. It's kind of hard for me to sum up the way it really hit me. Oh, there was a quote in it that was one of my favorites. Something about if you have the choice to disappoint somebody else or disappoint yourself, you should always disappoint the other person, which I loved. I am kind of one of those people who can finish a book, really have loved it, and then 2 days later, I forgot what I read. But I do know that there was multiple moments reading this book where it was like an epiphany. Yes, yes, yes. So I think I will honestly probably read it again eventually. I do have many books I need to read that I've not read yet, but also recommend. It's been a good book month. Wow. The next book I read was another audiobook inspired by reading, I think, the Jeanette McCurdy memoir. It's Sherry Frankie's book, The House of My Mother, which just came out, I'm pretty sure within the month of January. So it was right in my face. I had just read Jeanette McCurdy's book, and there's, you know, a lot of parallels with these because obviously Sherry Frankie, she grew up Mormon. I think she's still in the LDS Church. But if you don't know who she is, you probably do. Her mom is Ruby Frankie, who was convicted of child abuse. So originally the whole story started out that Ruby Frankie is a YouTube family vlogger. They did that for years. Their channel was called 8 Passengers. And then just in the last couple of years, I think it was maybe 2023, she got charged with child abuse. The book is Sherry, the oldest daughter's memoir and experiences growing up in this family from the beginnings to now. It was very interesting. Again, I'm always interested in anything, you know, kind of tied to Mormonism. Also, being someone who's on YouTube, I do not have children yet. I plan on having children someday. Looking into what is appropriate to put of your children online when they physically like can't consent to something. So very fascinating. And Sherry's kind of pointing out the way that her mom exploited the kids and like all the wrongness of it. Also, it just seems like from the story, it, you know, went downhill quick. Like it wasn't quite as bad at the beginning and then it just like really went downhill. Also loved this memoir, written really well. It's funny because I don't read a ton of memoirs, and it's just funny that in this month I read 2.5 because Untamed is a little bit. I do like them. I think I'm going to keep going with it. They've been very interesting, very well written. This is also kind of off topic, but I love an audiobook. Because I did a combo of physical books this month and audiobooks. It helps me hit my reading goal. Sometimes it's hard for me to just sit down and read a book. I want to be like doing something like cleaning or whatever it is. So it's nice to be able to do that while I'm listening to the book. And I'm on the team of it still counts. Yes, you're not physically reading it with your eyes, but you still know everything that happened in that book, okay? Consume books however works best for you. And the very last book I read in January was A Court of Mist and Fury. So this is the second book in the ACOTAR, or A Court of Thorns and Roses series. I have read A Court of Thorns and Roses twice, and then this was my second reading of A Court of Mist and Fury because I read each of those books a couple years ago. I can't remember exactly when, but I took so long to continue on in the series that I was like, you know what? I'm gonna start over completely because the story is very intricate. So if you don't know, these are a fantasy romance book. So there's a lot of world building. It kind of takes a second to get into it. It's a whole thing. Look how thick that is. I won't give away anything within the second book that will spoil the first. Just in case you want to read it, I'm not going to say anything that will spoil it. So let me think of what I do want to say. Loved it. It is so fun to escape into a fantasy world. I'm not someone who easily can fall into the fantasy world. Like I kind of feel like I have to be in a state of mind or calm my brain down. You guys, my puppy. Anyway, my puppy wants to go outside and then come inside and go outside and come inside. What I was saying was, sometimes it takes me a second to get into a fantasy book, to really get into the world. So I actually kind of liked the second reading better because I had already built the foundation of understanding the world. Easier to, you know, dive right in. It's the greatest escape. The romance is great. The very bare minimum gist of this is like, this is a land where there's a section where normal humans live, and then there's a bigger section where fae or fairy people live. But it's not like fairies, like typical, like a little tiny fairy with wings. It's like magical people with like elf ears. The humans and the fairies don't necessarily have a great relationship. They have a treaty between their lands to kind of stay separate because in the past the fairies used or had the humans as slaves. And in the original, the very first book, we get some crossover because our main character, Feyre, goes over the wall or close to over the wall or close to the wall and kills a wolf because her family's like starving, and then it turns out that wait, maybe I shouldn't say that. It might be on the back of the book. Where should I go back to? Anyway, our main character, Feyre, has a run-in with the other side, and then a whole story comes off of that. I'm someone who doesn't want to know way too many details before I get into the book because I want things to be a surprise and I want the story to unfold. So I find that when I'm telling other people about books or when I'm making book videos, I do the same thing where I don't want to share too much because I want you to be surprised if that's what you want. Or at least at the very bare minimum, try to stick to what's on the back cover of the book and not share anything else. Highly recommend. There is some smutty scenes in these books, but the thing that I love about this level of smut is not like the entire story. It's an intricate, elaborate story with a hint of smut. I've read other books where the book entirely was like based on smut, and that's not fun for me. I'm not enjoying it. I don't like it. But this one, very, very much loved. Big surprise, 5 stars. 5 stars to the first book in the series, 5 stars to this book. If you have not yet read the ACOTAR series, highly, highly recommend. Very good. Sorry about the shaking camera, that's my puppy. Here he is, the little troublemaker. I swear he knows when I'm working on something, because if I'm just like doom scrolling on my phone, he takes a nap, he's chilling. The second I go to do something, work-wise or anything, Then he needs something. And then he starts acting up. But that's it. It was obviously a great reading month. I didn't even realize I rated everything actually quite high. I'm so excited to continue reading. Let me know your favorite reads in the month of January. Hope you liked this video. If you did, give it a thumbs up. Don't forget to subscribe because it really supports my channel. And I'm uploading every week. And I'll see you guys next time. Bye, guys.